So many beautiful women in here. You guys, I've got with me Dr. Ann Denev. She's got 30 years experience, over 30 years, I'm sure. She's a mom as well. 30 years experience, naturopathy, herbal medicine, functional medicine, helping women balance their hormones, whether they're trying to conceive or they're dealing with menopause or just things are out of whack and they're just struggling dealing with life in general. She has seen it and done it all, I think, on the subject of helping women. And she agreed to come on here because she knows that ladies need help, and she's here to answer questions and just give some basic information on the subject of hormones. So with that, Dr. Ann, I just want to let you introduce yourself. First of all, tell everyone a little bit about you.
Hi, everybody. So happy to be here. Thank you, Chia. So for me, I love women's medicine. I think women are not really taken care of enough. I think that doctors kind of focus on the male population if you look at studies and things like that. So I'm really, really big on helping women with their health challenges. And of course, you know, when you think about it, men are way less complicated than we are in terms of hormones and health challenges because of our periods, having children, and going through menopause and pregnancy. I mean, there's just so much to being a woman, and a lot of it's really wonderful. And I've done it all myself, but I also have my own challenges, and that's why I'm really happy to be able to help women just with natural medicine, holistic medicine, helping them to really achieve health without having to resort to, you know, a lot of drugs, and keep their emotions and mood, as well as, you know, being just holistically healthy, which is everything working really well. And, you know, pregnancy, breastfeeding, all the things that go along with that.
That's right. Thank you. I'm so glad because, you know, one thing that I've learned in talking to you and is that there can also be so much focus on just like the female reproductive system, right? And so you get women saying, oh, you know, I have low progesterone, you know, or my AMH levels, right? And they throw off like specific hormones. But the reality is we're talking about an orchestra with a symphony.
Right.
And so it's like saying that the flute stopped playing and therefore the orchestra is broken.
Right.
But really, if you're looking for a harmony in your body working, you need the bass, you need the guitar, the drums, the flutes, like everything needs to be going. And so women are patching up hormones and, you know, not really considering that there's a whole system at play. So we've got a lot of ladies here. Excuse me. Excuse me. Wow. You know, greeting us from South Africa, Colombia, Texas.
Wow.
So many places far and wide. So we're having a very international reach here. Ladies, thank you so much for letting me know. Me and Ann are both in Florida. Her office is literally in walking distance from my house, and that's why I'm really excited about working with her. But ladies, if you have any questions about hormones, anything that you've been told, anything that just doesn't quite make sense, now is the time to bring your questions. Otherwise, I think we can just start with a basic discussion of what are hormones?
Well, you know, the hormonal system in the body is sort of a little postal service. It's kind of like a messenger service. We have a lot of things called glands, and I'm sure that many women have heard about their different glands, like the thyroid and the adrenals. We also have pituitary, hypothalamus in the brain, and all those glands put out these little natural chemical hormonal messages, and those messages have to go and lock onto cells in the different parts of the body. So you have all this communication going on, going kind of in a circuit all around the body, and it's kind of like a lock and key. So a cell would have a lock opening, and the hormone would be the key, and it would tell the cell what to do. So the pituitary tells the thyroid what to do, the pituitary and hypothalamus tell the adrenals what to do, and then they feed back. And all that information gets gathered up and coordinated with the nervous system and the brain, and then more instructions go out. Yeah. So it's a really wonderful feedback system, but the problem is modern life tends to interrupt those things a lot.
Wow.
So that's the challenge that we all face.
Okay. That's right. And already we've got some women popping in with questions here. So Beyond Divested says, what should I be taking at the beginning stages of perimenopause to help balance my hormones, please? My period is extremely irregular.
Yeah, that can happen. And it really depends on, it's kind of an individual answer. I don't have a one size fits all. Some women find that if they start taking some herbs like chaste tree, that they're, that will keep their progesterone a little bit higher naturally. A lot of it also is how you eat. It's really important as you go through these changes that you're eating a lot of really healthy whole foods, and that your diet is, not a lot of sugar, stay away from toxins. And there's so many toxins in the Western world these days, and that really interrupts hormones.
Yeah. So I think that that's a good thing. So when she says, what should I be taking at the beginning stages of peri? What I'm hearing is you got to look at your diet. That's what I'm hearing, right? So if you are eating lots of fast foods or foods in packages, right, we're going to need to change that. And then possible consumptions of certain herbs that might help balance some things. And one thing you mentioned was, say that again,
chaste tree, also called vitex.
Oh, okay, I've heard of vitex. Okay.
Yeah, and that's one that tends to be fairly universal and relatively safe. I mean, I'm not a medical doctor, and everybody should talk to their own practitioner before taking, health advice. But it is a pretty commonly used herb around the world, has been used by women for hundreds of years, and that can certainly help. Ashwagandha is another one that a lot of women take that tends to help. There's and everybody has their own herbal tradition from different backgrounds and from different countries. But a lot of times, and I think traditionally women have used the herbal remedies because obviously we've only had the bioidentical hormones in the last few years. And so women have been going through perimenopause and menopause for thousands of years. And the plant world can offer a lot of help and support.
Yeah. That's actually really cool, because sometimes women just need to know something, like, can they do something? So thank you, because that's something very simple to incorporate. Think Tank Angel says, what are the hormonal changes beyond 35 that make conception difficult?
Well, actually at 35, it still shouldn't be too difficult. The hormonal changes, again, might be occurring because there's interruptions. Naturally, the body, again, everybody's different and everybody has their own genetic background, but really things shouldn't start to change quite that early. I think you have to start looking at late 30s, early 40s. Some women get changes. Some women, it doesn't happen until 45. Some women not really until 50.
Wow.
So, but what does tend to happen is that hormones tend to drop. Now, there's one hormone called cortisol that can really, really play havoc with hormones, because women have to make progesterone. And when progesterone goes up mid-cycle in your menstrual cycle and then drops, that's when you have your period. And it should be around 28 days, more or less. Excuse me. So if there is a very high stress situation that creates too much chronic cortisol, that interferes with progesterone production, the way the body makes hormones. And so that's one thing to really look at, is what's happening with stress. And that's why ashwagandha and the adrenal adaptogenic herbs can help and make a difference, because those might help manage stress. Now, the other thing about stress is avoid sugar and avoid really bad quality oils, and really, have supportive people, get plenty of sleep. There's so many, there's a whole new category of medicine called lifestyle medicine. And that is turning out to be something required, again, in this crazy modern world that we live in, that you probably didn't have to think about 200-300 years ago. Not that they didn't have stresses, but they might not have had the same kind of chronic stress that we have
Yeah.
today.
And especially now because, you know, we've had such a change in society where women are working and
Right.
expected to still be the mom, the
Yep.
maid, the nurse,
Yeah,
the
I know.
freaking the
Oh, and
sheets.
if
Like
you have,
you're
if you
still
already have
expected.
kids, yeah, the taxi driver and the, you know, and women are the hub. They are, you know, they set the tone for the entire family. And
Mm-hmm.
you know, that's a lot on a woman. And you know, also the men in their lives don't always take care of themselves as well as they probably should, and that's another challenge for women. And I know it's a big concern for a lot of women.
Yeah, yeah, it is. You know, men have their own stressors and things too.
Right.
Um, Biba says, what do you think about HIIT exercise when you have PCOS? So HIIT stands for high
Okay.
intensity interval training, I believe is
Right.
what.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't think it's a good idea. I really don't. I mean, I think that a woman who is super fit and young maybe could do some of that, but the new research that's coming out from women in nutrition and fitness, as you know, studying this, you know, at the university level, it's looking like women need to have less intense exercise
Mm.
that doesn't drive their cortisol. So that's, and also same thing with intermittent fasting. The research that I have seen recently shows that women really shouldn't be fasting for so long. You know, where, because again, your blood sugar drops, that can affect your adrenal glands. And so if you're, you know, cortisol, if your body is under stress because of your intense exercise, it doesn't know what kind of stress it is. It doesn't, the body can't evaluate, oh, this is just exercise and everything's fine, or, you know, this is emotional stress, or this is job stress. The body doesn't do that. The body is sort of like off and on in terms of stress. So any kind of
Mm.
stress that you have can turn into chronic stress if you don't rest, give yourself a break, and have a chance for your adrenal hormones to reset themselves. Sometimes you have to rebuild the adrenal glands.
Wow. That's interesting. I've also heard of that for women in perimenopause. And I didn't understand the full philosophy of it though, that some women start gaining weight or they can't lose it
Right.
the harder they exercise.
Yeah, well, again, that could be the cortisol response. That could have to do with gut biome. I want to go back to the last question, though, because she asked specifically with PCOS.
Okay.
PCOS is really considered a type of diabetes. And so, again, managing blood sugar is going to be very key for someone with PCOS. And that's another reason why maybe the HIIT training might not be the best choice, because what they really should concentrate on is lifestyle with PCOS, and really getting off the sugar and the simple carbohydrates. So again, PCOS is a huge problem these days. I mean, when I was first practicing, we hardly saw it, you know, 25
Wow.
years ago, and now a lot of women are having difficulty with it. But again, the food, the amount of sugar and the amount of bad oils and such in the food has really increased in the last 20-25 years.
Wow. Gosh, this is like really, it gets to be stressful, right? Because then we got to eat fast and,
Yeah, I
ugh.
know. And also when you're working, it's not easy. You know, it's not easy. You're tired, you're hungry, you come home, you have to cook, you have to feed the kids if you have children already, or even
Mhm.
just feeding yourself if you're, you know, still single. You know, it's a challenge to eat healthy food and not just grab something because you're tired and hungry. And, you know, it takes a lot of preparation and thinking ahead and planning ahead.
Yeah.
I have this
I
same
know
problem.
for me, the crock pot has become my best
Yeah,
friend.
I
Buy
love
some
crock
nice
pot. Yes.
organic grass-fed
Yeah,
meat, throw it in that pot, and you know, the 10, 15 minutes of prep
yeah, I
and walk
know.
away. Yeah, but
Right.
it does take planning.
Yeah, because
Um,
you have to have food ready to throw in the crock pot also. So that means going grocery shopping.
that's right. Yeah, you got to go to the store.
Hmm.
um, So here we got here. So the lady who she spoke, we just answered her question, and she says no fast food or package, but I do love sugar. We all kind of love sugar. I think that's
Well,
the design of sugar. Is
yeah,
it's
I
meant.
mean, it's natural. Mother's milk is sweet. We learn to love sugar at a really early age.
Yeah.
So, the sugar can become addictive, and sometimes it's just a habit. And what to do about habit? You got to find something to replace it. Usually,
Yeah.
drinking more water could help. Finding something else to do. But if it's really at a full blown addiction, you just got to break it. And um, the thing is, you have to do it long enough for your body to give up and say, all right,
Mm.
I'll stop bugging you so much about it. A lot of it might have to do with microbiome. This is something that is coming out. So taking more probiotics, again, drinking more water. Sometimes people interpret some signal from the body as needing food when they might just need water. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Maybe chewing gum with something like a xylitol, which doesn't necessarily spike your blood sugar. Just, finding a way to kind of, trick your body until you're over that addiction. But I mean, I think I notice after Christmas, for example, it's, you eat more at certain times, and then you have to go through the whole process again of getting off the sugar. But it is so important for all aspects of health. If I had to pick, two things, it would be really bad quality oils like corn oil
Mm.
and canola oil and things like that, and sugar as the things to eliminate.
Wow. I think we need to have an oil conversation here shortly, but I want to
Mm,
make sure that we get to some
sure.
existing questions here. So Lily Bell says, how long do you have to wait to take a test after she says implementation bleeding, but I think she means implantation. So let me ask that again. How long do you
Hmm.
have to wait to take a test after implantation bleeding?
So when you say implantation bleeding, she's fertility has occurred, and not very long, from what I understand. You should, I mean, just a few days. If
Mm-hmm.
you're talking about a home pregnancy test.
Okay. All right. I hope
Mhm.
that answers your question, Lily Bell, or you can give us more data. Um, Millie Stafford says, do you have any guidelines for herbs and healthy meals? So,
Herbs and healthy meals, or in healthy meals?
and healthy meals. So, do you have any
Okay.
guidelines for herbs and healthy meals?
Okay. Well, healthy meals would be food that has just been, at a farm. Healthy meals are, things that are flying through the air and swimming in the ocean and running around the barnyard or the pastures, and then growing in the fields. Although corn would be the exception to that one, because we know there's, in the United States anyway, it's very genetically modified. So I don't recommend corn. It also turns to sugar really, really easily, and we tend to jack up the sugar in our corn. I mean, if you've ever seen native corn in Mexico, it's these little bitty kernels on little tiny corn husks,
Mm,
and it's nothing like American corn.
wow.
So, it's knowing your local food. It's knowing what your, what's seasonal to you. Obviously, some people are in Southern Hemisphere and they're going to have a completely different season than we do. So, eating as much local, as much organic as you can afford,
Mm-hmm.
and making sure you get really good fats. Women need the right kind of fat. Very, very important for your skin, for making hormones, and for just general health, and
Yeah.
also for your brain.
Wow.
Your brain operates off of really good fats like coconut oil, fish oil, butter, avocado, things like that, olive
Yeah.
oil. Hmm.
This is really cool conversation. And you mentioned something about, eating whole foods from the farms. And this brought
Hmm.
up a question for me
Yeah.
because, deciphering what's marketing versus what's true.
Mm.
Are you able to speak on when a package says grass fed organic? Because sometimes the package will say grass fed. But then you read the fine print and it'll be like animals fed a non-GMO uh, diet. But I'm like, well, why would you have to put that in? If it ate grass, it ate grass. So what else can you call grass?
Well, you can, if you fed the animal grass, but then you take it to a feedlot and finish it with grain, you can still say grass fed, but it's grain finished. And that still could be corn and other grains because so here's another reason not to eat corn. What do they fatten livestock with? With corn.
Corn.
I mean,
I've got to go grab a package right now. Hold on. There's one that's
okay.
standing out. Now it's driving me crazy.
Yeah, it's definitely an issue. We have to, 200 years ago, you just bought meat and then you didn't have to worry about all this. But now you have to be a label reader.
Yeah, right. Because my baby, she's actually obsessed with turkey.
Uh-huh.
And so this one says made with grass-fed beef.
Okay.
And I'm looking for one this is a different one than the one we normally get. But it doesn't say what it's finished with. There's another brand that says grass-fed and grass-finished.
Yes.
So
that's ideal. If you can find that, it's always going to be more expensive, but it's ideal.
Grass-fed and grass-finished. So grass-fed, but grain finished is a thing.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you go to, a market that has all different kinds of choices, you've got 5 different, you've got natural, you've got, and, again, we're talking about United States, you've got natural, you've got antibiotic free, you've got USDA choice, you've got grass fed, grass finished, pasture raised. There's all these different categories, and it's really not designed to educate us as much as, sort of convince us to buy what is commercial and what is least expensive for the growers. You almost have to find a small private ranch to get the best quality, but again, super expensive.
Yeah. So now I have to ask you this as a cost saving thing, because I'm the sucker. If it says grass fed, if I have to choose between USDA and grass fed, I'll buy the one that says grass fed.
Absolutely. Yeah. USDA means they can feed them anything right from, the minute they're weaned from their mother. So, and there's some pretty scary stories out there about what we actually feed cattle in the United States. Unfortunately, we don't really, and that's why they have to have, sometimes antibiotics and different things, because if you raise your animals, I mean, anybody who has a dog or a cat knows this. If you raise your animals with healthy food and you raise them, with a lot of care, then they're a lot healthier. But it's not that different. I mean, look at what they do with horses. We don't do the same thing with horses. Horses are so expensive. Have you ever been to a really, really high-end stable where they're, race horses? You can practically eat off the floor, and they get massages, they get baths, they take care of those horses because they're so expensive. But our cattle, we don't treat very well.
Yeah.
Because, they're just going to be, slaughtered, and the point is, for the rancher to make money. And it's not always about our health, and that's why we have to learn so much. And that's why I'm really happy to be able to answer some questions and maybe clear up some of the mysteries.
Yeah, this is very helpful. Good. So Utter Epiphany wants to know, any insights you can provide on wild yam?
Wild yam has been used for, probably a few hundred years. Are we talking about topical, like a yam cream? It contains natural progesterones, and yam is delicious to eat too, but I assume we're talking more about using the a yam cream, and again, should be okay. If you're having your period, you probably only want to use it the second half of the period, day 14 to day 28, because that's when you naturally have progesterone, and yam will have some phytoprogesterones in it.
So what do women take that for?
To increase their progesterone naturally without taking synthetic progesterone.
Okay. So here's what I wonder as well, maybe like women kind of like self-medicating, like maybe someone told them they have low progesterone and now they're trying to handle it with things like this. Like, is this something that you should still work with a doctor with, or is it pretty harmless, can't hurt?
Mm,
Or like, how do you know how much, like, do I need to do my arm or my whole, do I need to like
right.
slather in it?
Yeah, I think it's always smart to work with a health practitioner. If a woman is still having her period, I like to test. I like to use saliva testing because I can get her cortisol levels in the morning. I can get her estrogen to progesterone ratio, which is very important for helping prevent cancer. Female cancers tend to be estrogen driven, and that's one of the reasons why progesterone is usually considered pretty safe if it's bioidentical or if it's coming from a source like yam. So I always think it's better to work with somebody who knows what they're doing and can guide you. Theoretically, you could mess your period up if you don't use it at the right time. Let's say a woman has a period that's pretty regular. If she starts using something like yam cream at the wrong time of the cycle, she could actually interfere with the fact that her body's already regulated in that regard.
Oh, wow. Well, that's some insight for you. Wow. Okay. It's not only how much, it's when. So
Right.
Utter Epiphany says, very true, doctor. One high stress event can push my period out up to 4 days. How do you
Hmm.
manage that?
Well, maybe you need to manage your stress.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I don't think I think it's not unusual. Travel, um, lack of sleep, but again, managing your lifestyle, really can make a very big difference. We live in way too much artificial light. There's so much now coming out about light. So one thing that women can do is be sure to go outside for a few minutes in the morning before 11 o'clock, and no sunglasses, get some light in your eyes. Did you know that eyes are the only part of the nervous system of the brain that are actually connected to the outside world? So eyes are really considered part of the brain.
Wow.
And so helping our hormones, pituitary and hypothalamus, which are midbrain, is something we can do by getting natural sunlight in our eyes. So even in the winter, now I've lived in Chicago, and getting outside early morning in the winter can be a bit of a challenge, but you actually have to go outside. Windows and glass from glasses or the car window or things like that can actually diffuse, and you don't get the exact right spectrum. But you're
Wow.
going to
So
learn so much more about light. It's a huge new area in natural medicine, and it's very exciting.
that is cool. Like, I've heard about first light, right? And sometimes we'll
Hmm.
open our balcony because we get the sunrise side, and I always
Oh
joke like we're
yeah,
getting first light.
yeah,
But then I'll be standing there with my little glasses on.
yeah. Take your glasses off for at least a few minutes and let the light come in your eyes. Now the other thing is towards sunset. Similar kind of a thing. And this is when the sun is at an angle, and then certain of the spectrum of sunlight is the right sunlight for our hormones. And also, as light goes down, and naturally, and you get into a twilight, you should turn down the lights in your house, or you could wear yellow or amber glasses at night, because we'll make more melatonin,
Mm.
which is another hormone, and that helps us go to sleep. And so if you're in very bright light or a lot of blue light from LEDs, then you can interrupt your natural melatonin production.
Wait,
And I'm not,
Doc, here's me. This is
yeah,
this is my studio light.
I know, I've
Oh
got that
Lord.
on too right now. I know, but don't have it at night.
When I love doing my lives.
Oh,
Baby's
oh,
asleep, I turn on my lights.
oh, yeah. Well,
Okay.
maybe we'll
Fair
see you
enough.
in your
That I
glasses.
didn't know that. And
Yeah.
that these are such simple things, right?
I know. Well, again, I mean, there's just a lot to manage with the lives we live now, because they're geared towards technology and staying up all night if we need to or want to, or scrolling, or there's constant entertainment. You could easily never sleep. But talk about ruin your health and make you have some serious emotional issues.
Right?
So
Yeah.
getting 8 hours of sleep for women, 7 to 8 at least, really important also.
Yeah, I know. I feel like the difference between 6 hours and 7 or 7.5 hours of sleep in my total mental well-being
Mm-hmm.
is night and day, and I'm sure I'm not alone.
Yeah.
Stan Stroffel says, I was in a very toxic relationship for a long time and my whole body started to hurt.
Yeah.
Although it's 1.5 years ago, I feel 5 years older and can't lose weight at all. Cortisol is
Mm-hmm.
bad, is what he says.
Yeah. Well, she might need to rebuild adrenal glands, which is possible. You can do it with homeopathy, with herbs, with nutritional supplements. But that's where diet is going to really make a difference too. And I think that it's not an illness in that sense, but it is an assault on the health. And so lots of sleep, lots of, supportive people around, moderate exercise, and really, really good food could do a lot also.
Yeah. Wow. Um, so Kiki, I can't quite get this right. Kiki Kel says, what are the tips to conceive naturally after 44? That's a very specific number, 44.
Yeah. Well, I think again, you have to, in order for pregnancy to occur, there has to be fertile soil. And so how you get fertile soil in your body is by really, really making sure that your lifestyle and the way you eat creates that type of soil where pregnancy can take place. And I think that's one place to start. And I think that's one reason why younger women conceive more easily, is because there's not quite as much wear and tear on the body.
Mm-hmm.
So, it depends on, you kind of have to evaluate how has your diet and lifestyle been up to this point. And if you've actually been not really taking care of yourself, you're going to have to ramp it up a lot to actually get into a better health state. So that's the first place that I would go, because it's not, you don't want to just get pregnant, you want to have a healthy baby. And so that, fortunately, what is really good for the baby is also good for mom. Also for both partners. More is coming out now about the quality of the sperm and how that can affect the baby. So making sure that both partners are eating really, really healthy food that's going to create that healthy environment. And then monitoring your hormones. How are they? Are they in balance? And that's where you might need to get some testing, work with a health practitioner, and see what's really going on, and take whatever measures are recommended to get your hormones more balanced. I've done that with a lot of women, and sometimes it's thyroid. And so if you just do standard blood testing with thyroid, it may look like it's in medical range, but it's still not working exactly correctly. So a lot depends on the symptoms. Are you tired? Are you having trouble with your weight? Is your hair the same thickness that it used to be when you were younger? There's a lot of, how's your skin? Is it dry? There's a lot of symptoms of thyroid imbalance also that would be looked at. So it's multiple faceted, and but it's always really about starting with the making the fertile ground, the soil strong, and that's only going to help you going forward in terms of your health for the rest of your life also.
Right. I do, as a lady who did successfully conceive at 46 and go on to have a healthy baby, I feel like I could also just chime in. now that I've gotten so much education, I can look back and say, what are some of the things that I was doing? One thing I can tell you is that I handle life stress very interestingly. When I feel stressed out, when I find myself angry, when I find myself with an anxiety stomach because I'm worried or preoccupied, I always would take a walk or go for a bike ride. But
Good.
I would always handle it with something by myself, not necessarily with my man yapping in my ear, trying to give advice, but just take myself out into the sun, work my body well enough, not so that I was exhausted, but so that I didn't feel so overwhelmed. And that was one thing that I would do, which probably then helped manage the cortisol factor of any high stress event. So even like if you follow, anyone follows my story, you know, I conceived my baby a month and a half after my father passed. I took more walks during that time. It was extremely stressful to have my father in a hospital on the brink of death for 9 days before he perished. And I walked and I walked and I walked and I walked every morning, every night.
Good.
So, and I took a lot of supplements at that time because I wasn't eating very much. I was stressed out. I wasn't eating and I was averaging 4 hours a night. And obviously I was taxing my adrenals. So it was a lot of B1, a lot of B complex, a lot of vitamin D, a lot of magnesium, day and night, day and night, day and night. Because for me, that's one thing I do. If I know that I'm not eating enough or I know that I'm not sleeping, I supplement heavily to compensate for that. So I'm not running you guys out to go run off and buy a bunch of vitamins, but I am trying to say, be aware that if you're not sleeping and you're not eating, you have to do something.
Right. Good.
So anyway, and then in the end, I turned around and I got pregnant and went on to have a healthy baby despite that very stressful circumstance. So anyway,
Good.
those are tips from a lady that did it at a very interesting age, and I hope it's helpful.
Yeah, good. I think we're outside enough. I think that, you know, walking is one of the best forms of exercise. I mean, there obviously are many others, but we're not outside enough. And that's another really good thing about walking is, you know, nature and, you know, connecting with the natural world.
Yep.
Very helpful.
And be key. Also, I said, go by yourself. Like just no external chit chatter from anybody else. Just go collect yourself. Very important. D. Doyen says, I have perimenopause symptoms starting at age 42, mainly irregular period. I'm finding it extremely difficult to lose any weight, even with considerate lifestyle changes, but absolutely no weight loss. I'm curious what you would consider a considerate lifestyle changes. But anyway, but she's got the symptoms and she's finding it difficult to lose the weight.
Well, at this point, I might start looking at some hormone testing because, you know, what are the adrenals and the thyroid doing? I don't know what, you know, what exactly kind of food is being eaten. Sometimes it's the time that you eat too. There's some ideas that you should really not, you know, even though you shouldn't really intermittent fast and just eat in a short window, but, you know, not eating in the evening. Sometimes, you know, there's some simple changes that can make a difference, but I would start to look at hormones. I look at gut biome. I think that, you know, probiotics and really making sure that your digestion is healthy could also make a very big difference. So again, it's not really a one size fits all. You know, we're pretty individual, and so there's you know, a few things to consider there.
Right. Yeah, I think the key is like when you're at this phase of things, the testing. Otherwise, it's a little bit like throwing spaghetti on the wall to see what sticks, right?
Right.
You're trying to fix it, and you don't know what you're fixing.
Yeah, but you can never go wrong with the lifestyle changes. So that's really good place to start, and that's good that she's doing that. But it just really depends on, you know, her individual body and her needs also.
Right. Right. And the same person is asking what could help increase her metabolism rate.
Yeah, you know, that's a funny thing. Metabolism is, you know, how we burn our food and how we utilize our food. So, you know, I think that we probably, many of us overeat. We don't, you know, it doesn't maybe seem like a lot. I say this because when I've helped a few people with weight loss and then they get stuck and they're at a plateau, and then I happen to be someplace where they're eating 3 times more food than I am. And I realize it's not that they're not eating healthy food because they're making good choices. They're just way eating too much. And so portion size does make a difference. And I don't want to get into, calorie counting particularly, but it is something to consider. It's one aspect of it, especially if they're very high calorie foods.
Wow.
So that is one thing to consider. I mean, if you look at you've seen on YouTube, sometimes they'll, or on, Facebook, whatever, they'll show, we used to have really small portions of food. And if you go to Europe, you still get small portions. But in the United States, everything's supersized. If you buy a muffin, it's the size of a volleyball. But they used to be, the size of the muffin tins you buy, you have in the culinary section of stores. But in a bakery, that's 1/4 the size of a muffin. So look at portions.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
flour products, rice, and pasta and things like that, bread. Those all can really mess up your metabolism. Sometimes almost as much as sugar.
Wow. Wow. Well, I want to give you your pay here. Soul Tree Health LLC says this is all great information. Coco's Flower says wealth of information. So grateful for this session.
Pleasure.
I'm so glad. Yeah. Just wanted to let you know that the information you're providing is being very well received.
Very happy.
Yeah, me too. I'm very, very happy that you're here. I'm learning things too. Funks Shikonin. Sorry, I can't get all these titles. She says, is maca powder good to balance the hormones?
Good question. Maca actually is more for adrenals, so it might be a bit stimulating for some people. It kind of depends. But it's certainly something that a person could try. I don't know if it really balances hormones, but it could assist the adrenal hormones.
Very good. Very good. Okay. So we had the conversation earlier about wild yam, and the lady who asked about it, she was kind of chiming in with a little bit more information. So she said that she was curious about eating it, and then, so I guess based off of some of the information you said about it potentially interrupting your cycle, she says, should you not eat wild yam for fertility if your cycle is regular?
No, I don't think eating wild yam, I mean, unless you're eating bushels, would make that much difference. We're really talking about when you have a wild yam cream, things are extracted and put into a cream form so that you can rub it on your skin. It wouldn't be the same thing. But eating, yams are healthy. And if you like potatoes and such, sweet potatoes and yams are a pretty healthy substitute. Again, if you're trying to lose weight, you probably should not eat a ton of them, but there's a lot of vitamin A and such in those vegetables that have orange color.
Oh, very, very good. I heard that vitamin A is also helpful for the man's fertility as well, like the quality of his sperm or something like that. I read that somewhere.
Okay.
Beyond Divested says, excellent questions about yam. Thank you. Okay, good. I'm scrolling through. Okay, so Fuller Quest is on board, and Fuller Quest and we're going to be doing a live on Thursday. So I'm just going to shout her out, thank her for being here. Her specialty is helping women with fibroids, right? Using nutrition to just get the hormones together, helping with fibroids, and I believe PCOS. And she wants to know this. She says, I know that we've talked about Vitex and wild yam already, but if you are 40 plus and body is skipping ovulation, what time frame of the cycle should we consume Vitex and wild yam?
Again, if you're skipping periods, it's kind of hard to tell when the 14th day occurs. So it'd be 14, day 14 to day 28, ideally.
Hold on. She said she said, I'm going to read it again.
Okay.
But if you're 40 plus and body is skipping ovulation,
Right.
is that the same as skipping your period?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Well, that's an interesting question. I still like to use anything that's going to encourage progesterone the last half of the period. But ovulation is going to occur with estrogen. So I would probably do some testing for that sort of thing and find out, what the hormones are really doing.
Okay.
I think at that point, if you're not ovulating, you have to dig a little deeper there and see, because I know that you can test your ovulation in various ways, but obviously, you want to encourage anybody who still wants to get pregnant, you have to obviously ovulate. So,
right. Yeah. So we would encourage more testing for more information before.
Right.
Yeah, I got it. Okay. This one is interesting. I'm gonna read the question so the person knows that we see it, but I don't fully expect you to answer it.
Okay.
This is Beba. She's in Guatemala and she says it's very difficult to find doctors that knows about PCOS. Can you make recommendations of doctors that can treat me online, and if you think that is a good idea?
Well, I do virtual consultations, so she could consult me. I think there's probably quite a few online doctors. I can't really name other doctors particularly, but I don't think that's going to be difficult either. I don't know about Guatemala, but I know that there are certainly stateside lots of doctors who could help with that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think with the COVID, telemedicine has really become in vogue and a thing to do, and it's really opened up the borders as far as fertility treatments, right? Yeah, I'm aware of another doctor who I recently partnered with, and she's in the UK, but she treats patients internationally and ships herbs and things like that. So you can DM me after this. Kiki Kell, you're welcome. I see your thank you. So Lauren in Tulesi says, this is so good. Thanks for making sure I joined at the Soul Tree Health LLC. Okay. We're glad you're here too, Lauren. I know this is very helpful. So Kiki Kell, if I'm getting this right, she wants to know this. She wants to know how to shrink fibroids.
One thing about fibroids is making sure that you have iodine. If you look at Dr. Brownstein's work on iodine, he's the go-to iodine guy for thyroid. And I'm not saying every woman should use iodine for different thyroid issues, because there's too much thyroid hormone and too little hyper and hypo, and so that there's some consideration there. But I probably could safely start using some kelp in your diet. You can get kelp supplements. There's one old way to check your iodine, and that's if you can get a hold of a tincture of iodine, which people used to use on cuts and things like that because it's antibiotic. Then you rub it on your skin and see how fast your skin absorbs it. And if it absorbs it really quickly, like within a couple of hours, it may mean that you're lacking in iodine. But that is one thing that you could check out for fibroids. And the other thing, again, I think anytime you have cysts or fibroids or polyps or different growths in the body, consider what you're eating and really, really clean up your diet and lifestyle. And, I would make sure also that your iron is sufficient, because some women with fibroids do bleed more heavily, and then they can get very anemic, which is another way that I tend to handle heavy periods, by the way, is making sure that there's enough iron. It's almost like, and also, there's probably some other minerals that one can take. keep a period from being so heavy.
Yeah.
So, but that's the thing about fibroids. Mm-hmm.
Now, that's my ice maker in the background. On the
Mm-hmm.
subject of fibroids, and I know, again, I'm going to be doing another live with Fuller Quest, and I've heard this from other friends that have dealt with fibroids. They've tried to tackle it with a vegan or vegetarian diet, but not every woman is going to go vegan or vegetarian. But are there certain meats or foods, to your awareness, besides the obvious processed ones, that if a woman is trying to shrink her fibroids, she should incorporate or avoid?
You know, I'm not a fan of vegan. I have a postdoctorate in clinical nutrition. I've really looked at the history of nutrition in humans. And did you know that there's no indigenous people around the world who ever followed a vegan diet um, before, maybe last century? I mean, it's usually if they are vegetarian, like you might have in the Indian culture, Hindu culture, then usually it's for religious reasons. It's not for health. And I think there's a really good reason for that, because if you're eating indigenously and you are, local food, and you don't have grocery stores and 7-Elevens on every corner like we do here, you've got to eat what's available. And in pregnancy, women need at least 80 grams of protein a day, at least. And there are, again, new data coming out about humans. They're sometimes talking about you should eat 1 gram of protein for every pound of body weight. And so, I mean, for me, that's 120 grams. Now, I counted during my pregnancies, I counted protein. I made sure I got at least 80 grams, had very healthy babies. But, now they're looking, some of the doctors are really studying aging, are talking even higher, so that there isn't loss of muscle mass. And so I think that eating as close to an ideal diet is always going to be helpful, no matter what. Now, I think animal protein gets a bad rap. First of all, if you can't fully digest it, so you might need hydrochloric acid, you might need digestive enzymes. But, sometimes people feel better on a vegetarian diet. It's lighter. I know for me, my blood sugar, I don't do well on a vegetarian diet. If I have oatmeal for breakfast, by 10:30, 11 o'clock, I want to chew on my arm. But if I eat eggs for breakfast, which are very, very nutritionally complete, or if I eat, like, I don't eat massive amounts of meat at one time, but if I eat a small amount of grass-fed meat, then my blood sugar is very stable. So I tend to look at that because I'm working and I need my blood sugar to be stable, and that keeps you from wanting to snack also. So you can really monitor your food intake, and also getting to an ideal weight. Now, there's an interesting thing about these new weight loss drugs. 30 grams of protein per meal. So if you eat 3 meals a day and you eat 30 grams of protein, 90 grams of protein, it will also bind with the GLP-1 receptor, which is how the weight loss drugs work. So a combination of taking berberine, which is another herb that is very good for liver and blood sugar.
Did you see my berberine post yesterday?
Yeah,
I've lost.
You are a berberine success story. I know. Do you want to tell everybody?
Yeah, I actually started taking berberine because it has so many health benefits. One of which I wanted to take it for immunity, and I started losing weight. And I hadn't changed my diet. I wasn't exercising. I couldn't figure out, like, why am I dropping weight? And then I saw, I don't know if you guys follow Dr. Eric Berg. He's like the keto doctor. And he made a video on berberine, and I happened to catch it. And come to find out, it assists with gut health and insulin resistance.
Right.
And I have been losing about, I want to say, about a half a pound almost a week. Like, just the stubborn weight that just never, those last 7-8 pounds.
Yeah, I know. You look great.
And I can't say that in my videos when I'm promoting it, because then I'm making claims, right? And that might not happen for every person, right? And so I haven't been able to say, oh my goodness, you guys, I dropped like 8 pounds in a month and a half without even trying. That's what I want to say, and I can't. But berberine, baby.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for PCOS also, berberine would be another good
Yeah,
thing.
because it helps with the inflammation, right? That I saw something about that. Can we
Yeah.
talk about PCOS and berberine?
Yeah, we talked about PCOS, but berberine and inositol would both be good choices for PCOS.
Mm.
Mm.
Okay, ladies, berberine and inositol. Okay, great. Let me just wow, just scrolling through here. Someone says such a helpful live. Thank you. Will you save this chat, please? I can't save the chat, but I can definitely save the video. Somebody wants to know, can I save and post live later? Yes, I will. Absolutely. It'll be on my all of my lives. I download them immediately because Instagram gives me the option right when I end the live to upload it. So I will. Then I will go back and edit it and put it on my YouTube as well. Dee Dee says, thank you. This is very informative. I'd love to connect with the British doctor, Mila Stafford or Millie Stafford. DM me. BB is thanking you for the data. Kiki Kell says, thanks for answering my questions. Soul Tree Health LLC says, thank you. This statement. I'm not sure what she means, but she's thanking. Kiki Kell says, I tried to cut out meat. It was extremely hard since I'm anemic. Thank you for this podcast. You're very, very welcome.
Mm-hmm.
Then I realize that we are almost at the hour mark here. Two undecided wants to know which brand do I recommend. I'm thinking she said asking me brand of berberine. The berberine that I am currently using, there's a direct link to it in my link tree. And ladies, by the way, I would appreciate it if you would, one, check out my link tree, pop over and subscribe to my YouTube channel. All of my longer form content is there, including the lives like these. And yes, and also the berberine that I recommend, that link connects direct to Amazon. I do earn commissions for it, but I am losing weight taking that berberine. So I am vouching for it, and I actually know the owner of the company. So I trust him. So let's wrap up with this last question here from Maury. It's got a name that I can't pronounce, but it starts with Maury. What foods promote ovulation? Is that a thing?
Wow. That's a good question. I don't know that I really can say there's any one food that promotes ovulation. Because it's such a process. You know, you have to get the entire cycle working correctly to trigger ovulation. But I would say that it's more like having a balanced diet and balanced blood sugar, because you want the ovaries to be very healthy. PCOS is polycystic ovarian syndrome because there's too many follicles being stimulated in the ovaries. So balancing your blood sugar would be really important for ovulation. And then you have to make sure that you have the estrogen that you need. And so again, I would really look at testing. I have found that thyroid is a huge factor. So getting your thyroid checked and also looking at your symptoms regarding thyroid. And hopefully Chia will really talk about thyroid in the future, because I found that that's a huge factor with fertility and such. And I have a lot of experience there.
Yeah, she's actually talked to me quite a bit about thyroid, and it's a great place to check. So you guys want to look for doctors like Dr. Ann in your area. So we're looking at functional medicine doctors, right? Naturopaths, nutritionists who can look at the whole body and not just patch you up here and there. And sometimes what I've learned is that the medical doctors, they can do testing, but the medical ranges of tests might be a bit broad when you're trying to fix a part of your body that's not functioning well, or when you're trying to improve your odds of fertility. You want to look at practitioners that look at functioning, okay, not just surviving good enough, right? So you want to search for a functional medicine doctor, naturopaths in your area. Dr. Ann does do telemedicine. She will charge you, okay? So don't go looking for free service. You see, she is extremely knowledgeable. So if she's going to take you on, she's going to want to meet you you know, virtually, and you will have to pay for her time, but I think she's demonstrated she's worth it. The last question we're going to end off here is just, she says, you mentioned another supplement to reduce heavy bleeding. Which are those?
To
Did we
reduce
mention supplement? Heavy
heavy
bleeding. Was
um
that Vitex?
oh um potentially, but I think that I talked about iron.
Oh,
Iron.
oh, iron.
Yeah. Yeah.
Incorporating iron. Okay, great.
Right. And you have to be careful with iron supplements. Some of them can constipate you, and most women don't really want to be more constipated. So, Floridex, which you should be able to get a hold of, is a nice herbal iron supplement. But again, look for some of the better brands, and maybe check with some of the maybe, I don't know if Dr. Berg has an iron supplement. He might.
I'm team Floridex. I took Floridex while pregnant, the liquid
Did you?
one. Never constipated me and handled my energy.
Yeah.
I started
Yeah.
getting borderline anemic while pregnant, just borderline.
Mhm.
And Floridex was extremely helpful. It tastes good, doesn't taste bad, and it didn't constipate me. So anyway, ladies, thank you guys so much for attending this live. I am going to end off on time because we respect Dr. Ann's time, and I told her it's an hour and we are 2 minutes over. Look forward to this live being posted on my YouTube, on my Instagram, and also I'll have it up in a few days on YouTube after I edit it as well. Thank you, Fuller Quest, for being here. You guys are so welcome. This was great, extremely informative. Thank you so much, and I really, really appreciate you, and we will do it again. Everybody's, I don't know if you can see the comments as well, but you're getting hearts, and thank you so much.
Thank you. My pleasure. I really appreciate being able to talk to everybody, and appreciate you, Chia. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. All right, ladies, and there might be some gents here too. Yeah, lots of hearts and fire. We're getting hearts and fires, and woohoo! You guys are all so welcome, and we appreciate you sticking it out with us. This has been great. Bye for now.
Bye.